我的名字我是申展 I am 申展 I'm here to host Lunch and Learn with my co-host 我的搭档是永强林永强林老师。
大家好，我是林永强，虎年快乐。
Yeah, it's great. It's great to 很高兴见到大家，有很多老朋友，也有很多新朋友。A lot of old friends. Really great to see you, and also new friends. Especially, I can see this this new season. It's our every semester, every season. We have 4 sessions. The first Friday of every month. So this is a monthly program for 1 hour at noon. We read a selected classical Chinese poem together, read aloud, mostly focusing on the pronunciation. We will provide both Chinese, English, and Pinyin. So you will see the bilingual materials we provide, but because we are welcoming everybody at all different language levels. So mostly we will try to explain a lot of things in English, but also I will try this time, especially this semester, to use more Chinese. 所以 yeah, 我可能会在中文和英文之间转换，好吧？ So I may say things, switch back and forth between Chinese and English, or may you hear me speaking like repeat in both languages. I also would invite you to share your comments, questions, suggestions in the chat box. It's open to everyone. So actually you can start by typing where you are. In the chat box, in New York, outside of New York. We are in New York. China Institute is in New York, Lower Manhattan. We have a wonderful space and we cannot wait to welcome everyone to our location. I can see Eric is in New Jersey, Virginia, Brooklyn. We have people from New York. Xiaoan is there, Philadelphia. It's really wonderful. So we will keep the Lunch and Learn online for the monthly session. And I also want to, maybe it's premature, pre-announce that we will have another in-person China Institute Literati Salon. Some of you may have attended back in December before Omicron, or at the very edge of Omicron, actually. But it was a wonderful experience. It's more of a version of Lunch and Learn in person. So we will try to do that in June. It's still quite a few months away, but we are looking forward to it. So I would invite also, please, during the session, mute yourself, because we have quite a group here, so that we do not interrupt each other. And anything else? Oh, one more thing. In the chat box, please, I know it happened before, it may not happen with this group. Please don't put your promotional or advertisement links there. This is a space for us to learn. If you do have something to share about your service on Chinese language or more, please contact us. We are happy to discuss to find the most appropriate platform. Okay? All right, 好的，那我们现在让我分享我的屏幕。So I will share my screen. For new friends, this is not the one I'm going to share. This is for today. For new friends, oh, sorry. You may, now I'm showing you everything that I have prepared. So for new friends, we will focus on, and of course for old friends as well, we will focus on a poem, read aloud together. Today, the poem is 次北固山下. 作者是王湾。I will read very slowly twice, and so everybody can follow, and also an English translation will be provided. After the read aloud, we have selected one Chinese character to delve into the etymology of the character, and we will write the character together. Whether you have written Chinese characters before or not is not important at all. It's not necessary. So we will be able to experience that together. So if you have a pen and paper ready, that will be helpful. Or you can watch everyone writing as well. This semester, we're really trying to get to the breakout session. So at the end of the program, we will have 2 breakout sessions. Lin Lao Shi and I will lead each breakout session, and we will be able to read aloud more. And if any questions, you can open your mic and raise that question there, in addition to the chat box that always you can access. And Lin Lao Shi will be the one monitoring the chat box. All right, 好的，那我就开始我们今天的朗诵 ，read aloud 朗诵《次北固山下》。Here is the title. You can follow me. 次北固山下。
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 很好。Some of you may recognize this character 次，一次、两次。It means time, right? How many times you have read something? 哦，我去过一次纽约。I've been to New York once. But here 这个次有另外一个意思。你看这个英文的名字 ，A mooring under North Fort Hill， 所以这个次是 temporarily stop。这个意思现在很少很少 ，It's rarely in modern Chinese, but while in ancient Chinese, not necessarily ancient Chinese, but this is Tang Dynasty. 可以看到王湾是唐朝 Tang Dynasty 唐朝的诗人。But 次 does in antique Chinese have the meaning of temporarily stop. 次北固山下。Just a
固山下。
很好。Just a little bit about Wang Wan. We don't know much about Wang Wan. He might not be the most famous poet in Tang Dynasty. Some of you may know Tang Dynasty, especially Wang Wan's time. It's Hai Tang. That's the peak of Tang Dynasty in terms of Chinese classical poetry. There are so many great poets. In 全唐诗, the complete anthology of Tang poetry compiled in Qing Dynasty, that's like 15th century, many centuries later. Altogether, there were over or close to 50,000 poems in that anthology, including over 2,200 poets. So you could imagine to have a poem that what we are actually reading today, after more than 1,000 years, the poem itself has to be really outstanding. There is one little historical thing that I often thinking why in Tang Dynasty, because the poetry tradition has started long time ago, before Tang Dynasty. But there is one thing, maybe not direct, but may have a very significant role, that in 690, Empress Wu Zetian 大家可能听说过 some of you may heard of her name. She took the throne. She is the only woman who actually took the throne of the empire and made poetry writing to be included in the civil service examination, which was the only way people, especially people from lower ranking families without noble or elite background can get into the imperial court. So to have, literally, we're talking about in Tang Dynasty, starting in Tang Dynasty, officials in the imperial court, they have to be not only excellent in governing, but also excellent in writing poetry. And I want to, well, this is a quality that's highly valued even today in China, but well, not as a necessity as in Tang Dynasty and the imperial dynasties afterwards. So 2 lines I want to mention in this poem is particularly famous, which we will read later. The Tang Emperor in Wang Wan's time actually made this poem to be sent to all of his officials, so that, well, this is more of an example or a textbook type of poem that we are reading today. The translator is Witter Bynner, and he himself is an American poet, and particularly while writing themes and styles related to Japanese and Chinese culture. So if you're interested, you can look into that more. So this, we will start by me reading the entire poem. You can hear the pronunciation, the fluctuation of the tones, and then we will read word by word and line by line. You can follow me, but please keep your speaker or mic muted. 次北固山下，客路青山外，行舟绿水前。潮平两岸阔，风正一帆悬。海日生残夜，江春入旧年。乡书何处达？归雁洛阳边。That's the entire poem. So, question, what's the style of this poem? Some of you may know. We have been through this last year, the year before. We have 8 lines. Now each row has 2 lines. We have 8 lines altogether.
That is syllabic.
很好, thank you, Joe. Each line has 5 characters. So each line has an equal 5 character pentasyllabic. And because it's 8 lines, it has 8 lines, it's a regulated verse. 律诗, that's the form that was particularly developed and almost peaked in Tang Dynasty. I just want to add a note, not all 8-line poems are regulated verse, but in this case, it is a regulated verse. Just not to give the impression like whenever you see 8 lines, it's regulated verse, there are exceptions. Now let's get into each word and each line. I will pause for the first time I read this and you can repeat, and then I will pause after each line and you can repeat yourself as well. Okay, here we go. 好的，现在我们开始，好吧？客路青山 外，客路青山外，行
舟
舟
日
绿
日水
水前excuse me， 行舟绿水前，潮平两岸阔，潮平两岸阔，风正一帆旋，风正一帆旋，海日生残夜，海日生残夜，江春入旧年，江春入旧年。So I want to pause a little bit. This is a line I was referring to that made this poem famous for not only at Wang Wan's time, but also generations to come. It's, of course, well, the two lines cannot exist without the rest of the poem. If we go back, we could see that the first two lines, 客路青山外，行舟绿水前. I also invite you to look at the translation at this point. It's building up a story. It's describing the poet is taking the boat and traveling in the river. It's describing an event just quite plainly, but still in the form of the poetic regulated verse. The next line, the next two lines, continuing building up the scenery. 潮平两岸阔，风正一帆旋. But we start, or I start, because everybody reading this poem can have your own interpretation. But the fact that it has really described how wide the river is and how upright the sail of the boat is. And while there are waves, 潮, there's wind, 风, but while it's really wide, calm, and you have the Chinese word 阔 here, and 正, it's upright, 阔, it's wide, and it starts to give me as a reader a sense of it's opening a grand scene. And now it comes to this line, 海日生残夜，江春入旧年. the sun, the morning sun, is born into the day. Sheng is being born, is born into the day from the night, the darkness of the night, ye, while it is still lingering because it is the dawn of the new year. The reason we choose this poem is because Wang Wan wrote this poem at the change of the new year. So in the New Year's Day, while the night was still lingering at the dawn, well, the sun is born into the day. That's this 海日生残夜. And the next line, 江春入旧年. We have the water, the boat is in the river. We have the water, 江. And the spring, 春, is carried into the new year, while the water is also carrying away the old year. 旧年, 旧 is old, 年 is year. And also I want to mention 年 not only means a whole year that we usually say 今年, this year, 去年, last year. But 年 is also meaning the very end or the very change of the last year and the new year. So it can be a duration of time. It can be a point of time. So this is the line that really connects the scene with how an individual like Wang Wan, the poet, feels at that moment. And honestly, not only paints a picture to me of how all these natural elements at this moment to come together to express how one feels about the passing of the year that we are all experiencing right now. But by reading this line, I particularly feel more of a hope, because even though you have the word 残 and 旧, 残 means it's incomplete or lingering or residual. And if you look at the radical here, the left side, it means by itself, it means evil, bad. It's not a very nice word, but looking at it. And 旧 means old. So these two words are not so good. However, both of them are describing the night that's passing and the moment of last year that it has passed. And then you can see the 日, the sun, and 春, and you may see there is a smaller sun embedded in the character of 春. So there are sun. It's already there. They are brought into the new year. While there's water, that's the fundamental element of life. That's nurturing and cultivating. So by looking at this line, I would feel, yes, I feel the sort of the sentiment of last year, the change of the year, but there's more hope there. There's more comforting that something new is coming. So, but again, it could be, everybody could have a different interpretation, but looking at the characters and of course, the build up from the first 4 lines are important. For this line, 海日生残夜, 江春入旧年, to have that particular grandness while not ignoring a little bit of sentimental feelings of the passing of time. And how to end that, because you almost feel that it's to the point that you cannot bring it to a grander level. The last line, 乡书何处达, 归雁洛阳边 coming back to the thought of home. So it, especially the turning of the year, you feel the pass of the time. For Chinese or Chinese culture, well, the returning point is always home. Of course, home is important in every culture. We go back to families here for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, for many important holidays. But for Chinese, I want to emphasize perhaps it's the anchor of individual's position in the universe, in the world. That when one feels sentimental or small in front of the grandness of the nature of the universe, one's position and connection with the family is the anchor. That's particularly important in Chinese culture. And also for Chinese New Year, everybody goes back home. So let's now start with this line and continue. 海日生残夜 江春入旧年 香书和触达香书何处达？归雁洛阳边。归雁洛阳边。Wang Wan was born in Luoyang, so that's his hometown. And this poem was written when he was passing Zhenjiang. That's a town in southeast or more east of China. Luoyang is in the north of China, so it's a far distance that, especially for Chinese for the New Year time, when one is not with families and facing the passing of the year, those kind of sentiments could be even more amplified. 好的，那我们再读一遍好吗？整首诗 the entire poem, let's do it together. 次北固山下 I will do 2 lines and pause. 客路青山外，行舟绿水前。潮平两岸阔，风正一帆悬。海日生残夜，江春入旧年。香书何处达？归雁洛阳边。That's the entire poem. A bit, well, not necessarily challenge. Maybe we do this without pinyin. How about that? 次北固山下，王湾。客路青山外，行舟绿水前。潮平两岸阔，风正一帆悬。海日 生残夜，江春入旧年。乡书何处达？归雁洛阳边。好，这是 I hope we're very good on time. I hope we can get to the breakout session and we will be able to or open our mic and listen to everyone. So before that, I want to introduce one character today. You probably can guess which one I will select. 跟你们想的一样吗？ Did you guess?
I thought it might be Yan. I thought maybe it was going to be the character for like year or something since it's New Year's. That was my guess. Yeah.
有没有人猜到这是春字春 spring? So one reason I chose this character is also after Chinese New Year, spring is coming. And today is actually in Chinese traditional solar calendar, not a lunar calendar. It's Li Chun, the beginning of spring. It's still quite cold, but starting from today, according to the agricultural cycle, the temperature starts to get warmer. Still fluctuates, but the general trend is it's getting warmer and warmer because the spring has come. And I love the ancient form of this character, 春。这是春字，东汉的时候 some of you may have heard of me talking about this scholar in Donghan, Xu Sheng, all the time. All the time. This is Xu Sheng's year. From 58 to 147 AD, that's Xu Sheng's years. He wrote the book 说文解字 to analyze. It's the first book in China's history to compile characters and analyze the etymology of each character. That's the first and the earliest that we can find explanations of characters, especially we are looking at a form that's back then, it's almost 2,000 years ago. 这是呢我们叫做小篆. So you can see the top part. This looks familiar. We talked about this last season when we look at the Chinese character qing. Yeah, it's for vegetation. It's like the leaves or grass growing out from the ground or on top of the trees, and it's expressing that kind of thriving plants or vegetation, the lush feel of the nature. And you can see this part. There's a line here, and then there's a little to give the depth of the line, and then there's something going through, not straight, but going through and coming down. Can you imagine what this whole part means?
Is it a root system?
Thank you. Very, very good. So you can imagine and picturing a root is going out, and this is the ground, breaking the ground and growing out of the earth. And I love this one because, well, this is also not just a one line showing the ground. It even shows the depth of the earth, that the root is going through and start to bud. And the bottom part, you still have, yeah, 这个很好猜. It's very easy to guess, right? 对的，对的，这是太阳，这是太阳. You have the sun there. the temperature is warming, you gotta have a sound there to give the temperature. So altogether, this is Chun. This is in the days that's getting warmer with the sun, under the sun, give the necessary light to the plants to grow, to start to bud, to get out of the ground, and then to thrive and to become lush. 这是春. So this is from Donghan, that's 100 AD, or Donghan is actually as a dynasty. Dong means eastern, Han is Han dynasty. Donghan, Eastern dynasty, Eastern Han dynasty, is roughly from like 8 to 200 and I would say 220 AD. But Chun as a character existed before that. So I just want to show two even more ancient form. Sorry. This is the version in the Jiagu Wen. So it's quite a different image, but if you look carefully, the sun is still here. It's in a different shape. And there's a dot there because the ancient Chinese, well, whoever created this did not want you to mistake that's just an empty circle. It's a sun. It has substance in it. And then you have different grass or plants at a different stage, growing and getting out of the ground. Some of them are seems more mature to me. This one has the little bud just start to come out. So even though it looks very different, it's still, you can see the elements in this Jiagu Wen. That's from Shang Dynasty. It was discovered from the oracle bones, Jiagu Wen in Shang Dynasty. And in Shang Dynasty, there's another form, and that's right next to Jiagu Wen. You can see that's already getting more shape towards this version. You have the two grass or plants up there, and then this looks similar, but in different shape. And then the sun is right here. So getting closer, and this is Jing Wen. 大家知道金是什么意思吗? What does
It's gold. Jeans like gold.
It could be gold. It could be more general metal. And this one is a particular kind of metal, bronze, because bronzes were particularly popular in Shang Dynasty. It's a similar time as this one, but the oracle bones presumably much, much older than the bronze version. So just quickly, and the later version, we call that Xiao Zhuan in Donghan, when Xu Shen wrote his book on Chinese etymology. And the current version we are seeing is Kai Shu, the regular form, Kai Shu. And quickly, Jiagu Wen, the oracle bones. This is just one example, the bottom of a turtle's shell. The bottom, you can see the characters carved into the shell. And this is just one, and actually very unique. Most of the bronzes are not in this rhino shape, but this, I found this very cute and also unique from the Asian Art Museum in San Francisco. And where is the character? Not the character we learned just now, but you can see where these characters being inscribed. So if you go to their website, you will be able to see that inside the bronze vessel, there are inscriptions at the bottom. Usually it's given, it's a gift given from the emperor to the to his officials or noble families, or it was made for ritual, almost only for ritual reasons, and it would have inscriptions to indicate the occasions, why it was made, when, and for what reason. So this would give a good impression where we can see this kind of bronze or jingwen inscribed. And we can imagine that with our current pen or brush, you cannot make a dent on this type of materials. But what we can try today, perhaps with our brush or pen, to write the 小篆 version. How about that? I don't know how to get back to my PowerPoint. Just 1 second. Okay, here. So perhaps we can try to write this one together. I will take a moment to, still, we probably cannot get back to the breakout session, but I will take a moment to set up my camera. And I have a pen here we can write this character line by line together.
Excuse me, can you explain how the left 3 characters correspond to that furthest right?
Oh, this left 3
Yeah.
to this one?
Yeah, so they each have the sun. So the sun is underneath. In terms of the grass and the roots, how does that correspond to the right side?
Oh, how the sun is corresponding to these sides?
And the roots and the sprouts. They're quite obvious on the left side. The sprouts on the left 3 are very obvious. On the right, it's not so obvious. So I presume that there's a transition to the right side, having the sun, the roots, and the earth incorporated into that character. So
incorporated into the Kaishu character?
Correct.
I see. Okay. So Kaishu, as while we are using it today, it has developed for many years. And while you can see the Ri is here, the sun is here. And then later, yeah, exactly how that transformation happened, I don't know. But while you could see that these 3 lines that can be considered as transformed into the earth that's going through the different layers of earth, and then the sprouts or the roots are coming out.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, because while the characters do go through a quite transformation from this version to this version to make it easier to write, and especially after paper and brushes are invented, characters could be written in a very different way compared to the more antique versions. So yeah, over time, but Kaishu as a form started to appear and regularized actually in Han Dynasty. So Dong Han, the Eastern Han Dynasty, is a very important period of time in China's history that Chinese characters in a variety of forms. Now we have 4 of them here today: Jiaguwen, Jingwen, Xiaozhuan, and Kaishu. Actually, many of you know that cursive style, 行书, running style, 行书, cursive style, 草书, all of these 6 major styles completely started and materialized in Han, Eastern Han Dynasty. But you can see from Eastern Han to Jingwen and Jiaguwen, we're talking about like over 1,000 years already. Yeah. So I hope that answered your question.
Just one more. That did, yes. And this little character on the lower right, what does that represent? If I can ask. So above the sun to the right. You said the 3 lines of the earth, the curved line represents the roots, the sun, and that little character to the right, what would that correspond to in the other forms?
I cannot understand which one you're talking about.
The character pointing to around 5 o'clock position. The character pointing to 5 o'clock.
Wait, this one?
That one, yeah, correct. Yes, that, no, the next one.
This
Where your
one?
arrows, yes, correct. The down, correct, yes, yes, that's the one.
That's not a character itself, it's a stroke.
Correct. Yes,
Yeah, so when we take Chinese characters apart, some of them can stand alone as a character on its own, like this one, 日. But some of them, if you just look at this one stroke, in itself, it's not a character. It's one basic element that makes up a character. However, if you look at this, there is a 撇. We call this 捺. 一撇, 一捺. What is this character? It looks like a person. However, this one is not, it looks like a character person, but in this character, this 撇 represents in correspond to its ancient form, more of the sprouts
correct.
coming out. And then this 捺, more of representing the roots going down.
Okay.
And then you have the 3 layers. If you take these 3 layers out, it almost looks like a Chinese character, 3, 3. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, perfect, thank you.
Okay, sure. All right, let me try to get to the writing part. I know we are running out of time. And Lin Lao Shi, could you let me see. I'm coming in from my phone.
Yeah, while Liao Lao is setting up her phone, so maybe you would like to set your Zoom, the view icon on your right top to the speaker model, so you can see the writing character very clearly. So we have the big screen. The view icon on your left, on your right top, speaker model.
Can you see me, Yongqiang?
No, 还没有看到哎。
Oh yeah, I have to do this. Got it.
哦，已经在里面了，已经在 Zoom meeting 里了。
So this is the time you can get your pen and paper. Can you see me? I have to turn on.
Yes.
准备好笔和纸 ，so prepare yourself for the pen and paper。谢谢。 Okay, let's give Liao 老师 a few minutes to set up her phone. So maybe I can see Liao 老师 in the Zoom meeting. So maybe we can. Okay, let me share the screen. So maybe we can read the poem together while waiting Liao 老师 to join us. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, you can move that. Yeah, so we have a few minutes. You can open up your microphone to join me to read it aloud, the poem. 次北固山下.
山下.
Okay.
故上下.
Good. So the first line, 客路青山外.
客路青山外.
行舟绿水前.
行
舟绿水
前.
潮平两岸阔.
桥平两岸阔.
风正一帆悬.
风正
一帆悬.
海日生残夜.
海日生残夜.
江春入旧年.
江春入旧年.
江书何处达?
乡书何处达?
归雁洛阳边.
归雁洛阳边.
Okay, 很好, 很好. So you may notice that it's easier for you to read. You can pause to each vocabulary. So 客路, so those two together, and then 青山, and then 外. 行舟绿水, 绿水 is yeah, 绿水前. So like this. So you can feel the rhythm of the poem and also make it easier to read. Okay, let's do it together without pinyin. Okay. 次北固山下.
次北路山下.
客路青山外.
客路
青山
外.
行舟绿水前.
行舟绿水前.
潮平两岸阔.
潮
平两岸阔.
风正一帆悬.
风正一帆悬.
海日生残夜.
海
日生残夜.
江春入旧年.
江
春入旧年。
乡书何处达?
江书
何处达?
归雁洛阳边.
归雁洛阳边.
很好呀，很好，很好。Okay, so let's take a look. If 廖老师 is back. 廖老师你在吗？ Yeah, I think 廖老师 is here. 廖老师 is all yours, so we can see you. So can you, can everyone see 廖老师 screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so see, I had a version of the 春 in 小篆 written, so we can start with this one, and then we go for the regular form too. 好，准备好了吗? Are you ready?
准备好了。
So we start with the top. the roots coming out. I imagine this as a little branch or a line representing the leaf coming out. The key point is you want, for 小篆 style, you want to keep each line even. So it's not like cursive or other style, somewhere you want to emphasize more than the others, push the brush harder. And this is more of just getting to know the structure. In Chinese calligraphy, it's so much more practice that's required. So I will get this one. And the key is also to get it balanced. And I get disappointed at myself if I don't get it balanced, which often happens. So now I'm doing this line here, that's the earth. And then get a little depth there.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Do we know the stroke order of these ancient scripts, or are we sort of just drawing them as we see them?
That's a very good question. No, we don't.
Oh, okay.
But so for 小篆, it's more of because it's an antique style that in regular communication today, written communication, no one uses 小篆to communicate, to function as a tool, right? So this is more of an artistic style if you are into calligraphy, and calligraphers often would just try to make it to the artistic expression as he or she needs. So the order is not as important as later when we write the regular form.
Thank you.
So this is the bud or see, I stopped, which is not good in calligraphy. You're supposed to just 一气呵成, just to complete with one spirit, one stroke, or one breath. Once you stop, it's sort of like your qi is interrupted. And now comes the sun. I will do this. Yeah. Yeah. I feel my sun is a little bit too far away from the top part. Next one, if I'm practicing, I will do another one a little bit to make the structure more compacted. Yeah. So, but I cannot go back and change. That's the ink writing or handwriting, which I like very much as well. So speaking of stroke order, for regular form, there is a particular stroke order that we do want to follow, because to memorize thousands of Chinese characters, to regularly follow a particular order would help that process. So 春, 楷书, 从上到下, the top, you start from the shortest. The first two lines are pretty much the same length. And then the third one is longer. And then you that, and making sure the root red stroke is not connected to this pie, this sprout. So it's a little bit apart to make it different from the character 人, but also give space structure-wise to the bottom sun. Left to write inside and close. Yeah, that's the regular form, 春。好的，那我们今天
Nice.
写字就写一个，只有时间写一个字。Only have time to write one character at a time. I'm turning the camera back to myself. 好的，今天我们已经超时了。We are already passing 1 o'clock and apologize for the technology again. If you have any questions, feel free to stay. Yeah, and we will upload the recording next week. And if you want to practice pronunciation more, you will be able to access. 好吧，好的，谢谢大家，再次祝大家春节快乐。
春节快乐。
再
春节
见。
快乐！
再见，谢谢，谢谢，
再见，春节
再
快乐！
见。
Yeah.